Hello guys, thank you for joining this lesson. We'll be working on the basics of openings, techniques for openings, and controlling the center of the game. Okay guys, welcome to this class. Uh, this is the opening, right? How we start a game using Lichess editor. I think this is a good place for us to learn basic move, analyze games, learn openings, and much more. There are many websites are good not to play chess or to learn chess or to practice to solve puzzles such as chess.com, Lichess, and even ChessKit if you're younger and you want something a little more fun, you can do on ChessKit. Okay, so which one to start? Okay, guys, so we'll start then. Now, when we are playing chess, usually the first move, the most popular move in chess openings is called is e4, right? Pawn e4, which is in front of the king. And the idea for us to do this move is to try to control the squares on the center, right? It's called openings because it's at the beginning of the game, right? Usually the chess game consists of three parts, which is the opening, the first 10, 15 moves. Then we have the middle game, which is, the rest of the moves. And in the end, we have the end game, which, usually is about pawns and when you have fewer pieces on the board. Okay. So most popular opening in chess games are e4. I was mentioning this is for us to try to control the center. If your opponent doesn't reply with e5, if your opponent doesn't go here, if your opponent moves here, or move any other piece, or move the knight, right? We can always go with d5, d4, okay? And having the pawns in the center is very key, is very good, because as you know, the pawns capture diagonal. So at this position, the pawns are already attacking and controlling these four squares in the center of the game, right? And if you are at the center of the board, you have more chances to attack, right? You can control the game and you can attack left, right? You can attack to the center. So you have many options to attack from. Okay, and plus this pawn is protected by the queen. Obviously, this pawn is not protected at this point, right? That's why we always then try to do, let me see. Hello, Anna, welcome to the class. So that's why you always try to then move your knight, right? To protect this pawn. And then use develop both knights, always good. And you're also welcome to develop your bishop, where you go e3 or where you go f4, right? You have the letters on the board. Like most boards, when you play online, they have letters, right? We know from A to H, come from 1 through 8. And usually when we play a game, we will see on the side the names of the moves you're playing. Okay, now when we're developing our pieces, it's always good to develop our bishop. First, this bishop. Why we develop first the F bishop is in order to be able to castle, right? We always want to castle within the first 10 or 15 moves, because this always gives us an option to protect the king and to develop a rook, right? Plus, moving the bishop to c4 is attacking the f7 pawn, right? Which is the weakest pawn on the board at the beginning of the game, because it's only protected by the king, right? So after that, we can always, go here, the knight, right? And then we can do a double attack on this pawn, right? We can bring the queen here and attack this with more pieces, right? And the more pieces you attack a pawn is better, Now, once you capture a pawn, the rest of the pawns are going to be always easier. So always you want to make pressure on this pawn if possible. If he already castles, then we're going to change strategies. Okay. Now let's see what we can do. Let's pretend we're playing a real game. So let's say we move e4, right? He moved e6. We develop this pawn. He pushed the pawn. So when they push the pawns on the center, we have options to capture or to push forward, right? Or to protect it. Usually you want to push forward because you win position. You're closer to get a queen or when you go to the other side of the board, right? So that's always good. Now, also, we want to always, most of the time, you always want to capture last, not first. With capturing this pawn, and then he can capture back, right? Or they have developed a knight, he can also capture back. Then he's going in position. So when you're trading pieces, most of the time you want to trade last, not first. I think is still good for white. Yeah, still good is also good for white. The two most popular openings in chess are e4 and also d4. Now both of them are good. They are usually called king's gambit or queen's gambit, right? You were also pushing or pieces. There are many openings, guys, in chess. Most openings, if not all openings, are already created or invented, so we don't have to create any new opening. You can read about it in a book, you can read online. You can watch videos about openings here in this app or in this website, Lichess on chess.com or in any other site, right? Even on YouTube. What I advise you guys is to master at least 2 openings, when you're white, you want to master 2 openings, because if you always just play 1 opening, then the other person that plays with you get used to your opening, so they can predict what you're going to move next. So then they can decide how to attack because they already know what you're going to move next, because they're so used to play with you, or they're so used to play with your to your opening. So learn at least 2 different openings, 2 different variants, so you can when you play someone, they won't know for sure which one you would use first, and so that's my advice. Openings are the first 5 to 10 moves. For example, I don't know how many of you know, but this is the opening Ruy Lopez, right? Very popular, where we start with e4, then the other player does e5, then we do knight f3 to attack this pawn, and the opponent plays knight c6 to protect it, and that's when we come here and we try to pin this pawn or capture it, because once you capture it, he cannot protect it anymore, right? And if he tries to protect it with this pawn, you can capture, and he's gonna double up his pawns, which is not good, right, guys? When we're at the beginning of the game, it's not good to double up pawns because I'm making your pawns slower, right? Now, if it's the beginning of the game, it may have a chance to develop later, but usually for the most part, you don't want to have 2 pawns on the same column. Okay, so then they can try to push back, and then you have many options. There is not a perfect move on chess, guys. There are many good moves to do, right? Depending on your style. You can be very aggressive and you can be always attacking, or you can first try to develop all your pieces, and then attack, right? So it's up to your style of game, But from here you can capture the knight, or you can retreat, right? If you retreat, most likely he was gonna push the pawn, and then you can retreat back, which is good because he's still attacking the weakest pawn, right? The f7. So these are so far the basics, of openings, and we're dealing with chess. Okay, so we're gonna go e4. The other player usually, 90% of the time or more when you play, your opponent is always gonna go e5 when you do e4. Now, when you're playing fast chess, like you're playing a tournament, a Blitz tournament, right? Which is a quick tournament when you play 5 minutes or less, or maybe 10 minutes a game. You want to be very aggressive, because usually the first attack always wins, usually, So what I usually do when I do fast games, I will go and move the King's Gambit, which I'll go with f4. So you're offering a pawn, and you're also putting the king kind of vulnerable, which is very risky. But if you can pull out this opening, it's very aggressive, and you have a big advantage. When I play fast chess, most players that I play with, they are not familiarized with this opening, or they don't expect me to do this opening. So I can surprise many players when I play this opening. Okay. So once I do this, most players that are not familiarized with this opening will take my pawn, which seems, I'm here, my king is not well protected, right? Seems like I gave a pawn, but if I push this knight here, now the queen cannot come here, right? And this pawn is stuck here. So what they usually they try to do is they go and they can bring this knight here to attack this pawn, right? Or they can try to bring the other knight. And what they usually do when I attack this pawn, I develop the other knight. So I already developed 2 pieces. And sometimes they try to develop the other knight too. I push my bishop here, which is very good. Because now I'm attacking the f7 pawn. I have 3 pieces out on the board. And on my next move, I'm gonna castle. So then usually they do something like bishop, and they try to go with an here with their bishop, right? So if they go here and try to attack here, so you cannot castle, which a very aggressive move is pushing the pawn here. And if we push the pawn to d4, what's gonna happen is now you can capture this pawn, right? It's not protected by no one. Or either he has to retreat or he's gonna capture, right? Now, g2 pawn to non-imaginary. No, you have different variations, guys. There is, as I was mentioning before, there is not a perfect opening. There is not a perfect move. You can always follow the book, but it depends what your player is gonna, what the other player is gonna play, right? What your opponent is gonna play is how you do it. Now doing this is also good. So you're stopping the knight to come in here, but this is a little more aggressive. Why? Because once you do this, let's pretend he takes, right? You take back, and he takes, you take with the queen. So at this point, you have the queen in the center, which is good, right? You have the bishop and the knight. So you have 3 pieces, main pieces on the center. Plus you're still attacking this pawn here. So at this point he can castle, right? He wants to, but you're gonna castle too, right? And once you castle, now you can attack this pawn. If he tries to protect it with moving pawn g5, then he's gonna just weaken his defense. So at this point, he cannot really protect this pawn, unless he does something risky like moving here, But at this point, we have won still, we have attacking this pawn with our rook and our bishop. We have the queen ready to attack here too. Now we have the knight that we can push here. He moves the knight, right? So we have so many options, guys. He cannot move this pawn. This pawn is pinned, right? Because he moved it, he gonna attack the king. So I was saying, you know, this opening is very aggressive. Is good. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I'm not moving too fast. Uh, but I was trying to, you know, show you, you know, some openings. If you're playing fast game, you know, playing Blitz or any fast game, there is always the option to do this opening. Can I hear you? We're on the only ones with this problem. Okay, sorry guys if you can't hear me. Let's hope we'll fix this soon. So as I was mentioning, for example, they may want to play this pawn here, right, to push this to attack the queen. Next. So at this point, we can just safely capture this pawn, right? And at this point, mostly all our pieces are developed. And next, we can use develop a rook, right? So, and the idea is also we can develop our rooks, right, to try to attack this, right? We can bring our bishop back here, you know, to try to attack this pawn, right? Which is also the weakest pawn. Once the king has castle, this is the weakest pawn, right? And usually, let me see. There are plenty of you. Okay. So, as I was mentioning, you know, the strategy, guys, in chess, as you know, I mentioned earlier, is always on your opening, develop as many pieces as possible. You know, and the more pieces you have out in the board, the more chances you have to create attacks. You know, the more diverse options you have. So no matter who you're playing with, no matter what level you are on, you always want to start, you know, the game. Let me see. With the pawns in the center, right, guys? As we mentioned earlier, we always want to start our game with our pawns in the center, so we can develop our center, and we can always want to bring our knights out or bishops out. You know, I seen grandmasters playing. I seen, you know, when I play with other players, you know, amateurs, no matter the level, you know, the best way to do when we're playing chess, always try to start with the pawns on the center. Now, if you know a specific opening that does not start like this, that's all right. But if you know it, but I see one of mistakes, and you know, usually we do when we're learning to play chess is I see many trying to do this opening. Start from here and then bring out the rook, right? I used to do this too when I didn't know much about chess. This is not a good position, guys. First of all, because once we do this, we cannot castle anymore, and castling is important to protect the king. A second, that you know, if we put if we push the pawn to bring out the rook, and he just push the center pawn, we cannot really bring the rook because it will be captured by the bishop, right? And the rook is worth more points because he can do more things than the bishop can, right? You're welcome, Dennis. So I was mentioning, you know, don't start from the side. Also, you don't have many options here. Always, guys, when we're starting developing our pieces, when we're starting to know openings, bring the center pawn, whether d4 or e4, and if you can do both, even better. And after that, always try to bring your knights, right? And or your bishops, you know. And you know, when we do this, we're taking control of the center, you know, and that's the idea, you know. Usually, the books says, right, who controls the center controls the game, and that's true. You know, most games I have played for quite a long time, and that's I've seen this. You know, I've been tutoring, you know, for many years, many different levels. You know, kids, adults, teenagers, and this is something that seems simple, but if you really understand this, if you remember, you will do a lot of improvement on your openings, you know, on your chess game in general. Just developing our pieces. Now, if you don't have specific questions about these openings, I would like to, well, I would like to first, you know, encourage you to, if you don't have an account on Lichess or chess.com, create an account, you know. If you already have an account, that's good. You know, it's always good to practice there too. And about ChessKit, guys, it's also good, you know, site for kids and teenagers. If you like it, you know, there has many options here. And here you can also have puzzles, you know, to develop your games. And you can learn lessons, videos. They are fun to do, interactive workouts, vision. I have a word of advice. If you have an account on ChessKit, don't play the first 3 levels. You know, if you have a free account, the first 3 levels with the computers are very easy, are too easy, and they won't really help you to improve your game. You know, play with the computer on chess.com. You know, here you will learn much more. It's more challenging. It will make less mistakes. It will simulate more what a real person will play. You know? So when you're gonna play the computer, if you have a premium account on ChessKit, start from level 5. If not, play on chess.com or Lichess at least from level 3. Level 3 on any of these 2 sites are much better than on ChessKit. Okay, guys. Let me see here. That's good. You know, if you, the more accounts you have, the better. So we're gonna do some puzzles today. So I can also show you here, you know, what we can do. Now, when you're doing puzzles, guys, on chess.com or on eChess, there is an option where you have learnings, training. You can pick topics, you know, what topics you want to do on your puzzles. If you are already intermediate, you can do advanced checkmates. And you have particular things you want to improve or get better. For example, defense, right? Or discovery attack. If you don't know what is that, you can always search it. Discovery attack is when you have a piece behind another and you move it out to attack, right? We have mate in 1, mate in 2, mate in 3. We have many good, you know, remove the defender, queen sacrifice, many good topics here, guys, that will help you improve your game big time. You know, puzzles are fun to do, but besides fun, they're always going to improve your games, you know. More than playing games, how you're going to get better is learning the openings well, you know, remembering to always develop your pieces and doing puzzles. Puzzles is a good way to improve your game. Now, try to challenge yourself, you know, when you have rating range, try always to push a little higher than where you are right now, you know. Don't put it too challenging, right? That you cannot really do it and you get bored or frustrated, but don't put it too easy that you won't really learn anything, you know. I think most of you are intermediate, right, or basic. So from 800 to 1,000, I think it's a good range. If it's too complicated, you can lower the rating, you know. But if it's not too complicated, you can always get it higher. Okay, I put all teams here. Now, my advice here is also to, if you have a physical board, the best way to do is to set up the puzzles on your real board, right? On your physical board. Because when you're gonna play tournaments, most of the time you play on real boards. You know, there are also online tournaments, but it's rare, you know. Now there's more popular, you know, guys, because we know all this problem with quarantines, but most of the tournaments, if not all the official ones, are, you know, on person. So if you set up the puzzles on your board, you can see and do more options, right? Like you can play and you can say, well, if I capture this, what's gonna happen, right? And then you can play it out on your board. And once you know the answer, you can come back to the site and you can answer it. You know, if we take the knight, the bishop will take back, but it will just be trading, right? But we don't win anything. And remember, guys, the goal of most puzzles is to either capture a free piece, right? Get advantage, or if not that, we can also do checkmate. Now, the first goal on chess obviously is checkmate, right? And the second goal, if we cannot do checkmate, is to capture pieces, right? Yes, queen f2. Right, guys. Why queen f2? Because the bishop is protecting the queen. And once we go here, we can go and do checkmate, right? This topic, you know, once you do it, they will tell you, right, it was correct. And once you do it, they will tell you, right? The team is made in one, which we saw this was made in one, right? So now usually, you know, when we're playing an intermediate level, most players will see this made in one. We have to do made in two or three, or we have to create a plan, right? To be able to win the game, okay? For example, let's do one more puzzle here. And here, what guys do you all think we should move? Okay, I'm gonna see your comments. I'm gonna give you some seconds to think about it. And what should be the best move here for white, right? White is gonna move. You can hit the hint, guys, but first I was telling you, try doing yourself. Try to analyze what's gonna happen once you move. Try to visualize what's gonna be the next move. At the beginning, it's difficult, but once you get used to, it's gonna become easier. The more you can see moves ahead, you're gonna become much better on chess. Right. Now let's see if we not here. Let's see your comments here. Okay, wait. Oops. I didn't hear the question. Yes, I was saying, what do you think, guys, is the answer here? Or is our move to move, right? Is we're white, and we're trying to see what would be the best move for white here, right? Mina says knight f5. Well, if we move knight f5, what's going to happen, right? Yes, it's going to be check. Which checks are always good, but checks are good as long as they cannot capture us. But this pawn can capture our knight. So knight f5 won't be the best move, right? Because we'll be trading a knight for a pawn. Right, and we don't have any follow-up moves. We don't have too many pieces attacking the king here. Plus the king is kind of protected, right? But it's still this pawn by the queen here. So it's a good move, but it's not the best one, right? Because let me see if nobody else have comments. I will go ahead and answer. Okay, guys, the best move here would be knight, yes, because it's the only piece right now we have, right? d5. Yes, it is knight d5. Why is knight d5? Because when we're going here, we're pressuring this knight here. And he cannot move the knight because the knight is what we call in chess is pinned, right? A piece is pinned when you cannot really move it because either is protecting the king or either is, protecting a really strong piece, a really valuable piece. Okay, so the best move is knight d5, because the next move, no matter what black move next, the next move we're gonna be able to capture the bishop. I mean the knight, with our bishop or our knight. Now we have to analyze, right? Which one is better, nine to capture with a knight or to capture with a bishop? Never, guys, rush to play. You know, I have seen players, they have lost games that they have been winning just because they play too fast. Yes, it's better with a bishop, guys. Why? Because if he moves the king, right, with the bishop, you're gonna do a fork, right? You can attack both pieces and he's gonna lose one of these pieces. If he doesn't move the queen, the king, once we do with the bishop, we're still gonna do fork, king and queen. So he'll be forced to capture our bishop with the queen, and we'll capture back with the knight, and he will lose the queen. Queen is really strong piece. Usually, if you lose the queen on the game, you know, early in the game or during the game, and the other player still has a queen, you know, has more chances to win, way more chances to win. Okay, guys, that was good. Let's do a couple more here. So this, well, right, this puzzle is white to move, right? Here, black is winning, right? It's winning by materials big time. It has two more bishops. We only have the queen and pawns, but he has even more pawns. You know, 2, 4, 6. We only have 4. And our king is not well protected, right? It's vulnerable. But it's our turn, right? What should we do? Should we try to defend the king or attack? Always, guys, even when you are, you know, in disadvantage, always try to attack, you know, because remember, guys, the first to do checkmate always wins. You can be losing big time, but if you still have pieces that can do check to the king, especially if you still have your queen, you know, anything can happen, right? You never give up just because you lose pieces in, you know, in the game. Yes, guys, most of you know the answer. Good job, good job. And yes, the answer is queen f8, right? Checkmate. The king can escape, and no one can protect the king, right? And the king cannot run away. So we won the game, even, you know, with less pieces. So always, you know, when we're playing, what this teaches, not only to be aggressive, to attack, right? But also to always try to protect our king. And let's do 2 more here. And now we're playing with black pieces, right? He has his last move is always highlighted, right? Most chess puzzles, most games, the last move is always highlighted. So it's our turn, right? Now we're pretty much even here, right? With pieces. We have our knight, or bishop, or rook. And he also has the same pieces. He has 5 pawns, we have 5 pawns. But it seems like he's trying to pin, right? We cannot really move this bishop, right? If we decide to capture his bishop, his rook is gonna come and capture a rook, right? And it's not only gonna capture a rook, it's gonna do check. So that's not good, right? He has a stronger piece, and most likely white will win the game here, right? So what should we do, guys? What can black do to try? Now, why? Because they're trying to pin this piece. See, you have the bishop attacking, the knight attacking, the rook attacking, right? You got 3 pieces attacking, and only 2 pieces are defending, right? Only our rook is defending and our pawn. So if you have more pieces attacking than defending, you're always gonna win, right? So that's the idea here. So what should we do? Well, we only have one answer so far. 9b2, 9b2. So what happens if we move for knight b2? We're forcing a trade, right? Or we can capture the rook, right? It could be a good move, but it's not a bad move, right, guys? But still, if we go knight b2, then this knight can take you back, and then what are you gonna do? You know, if you go a capture, he's still gonna go capture your rook. So is, you know, we have to see what's better. So look all your options. You know, when you're playing a game, especially at the beginning, look all your options. You know, see what's gonna happen. What is the best option? Don't just think about one move and go for it. Think 2-3 options, and then you decide which one is your best option. You know, when you're learning to play chess, don't play fast, guys. Take your time. Once you already master openings, and once you're already master, you can play a little faster. That's fine. But if you want to improve your level, always take time. You know, training takes time. Okay, let's see what other option we have. Knight b2, I agree, double attack. Okay, besides knight b2. But remember, guys, if we go knight b2, the white knight will capture our knight. And then what do we do next? We cannot capture this, because if we capture, he'll capture a rook. Right? Rook e7. Rook f4. Rook f4. Rook f7. Well, also, moving the rook here is going to save it, but then we're going to lose a bishop and a pawn, you know, which right now we want to keep as many pawns as possible, right? Because pawns make a big difference in the end game. Let me see. Let's see one more answer. Pawn b5. Attacking their knight. Well, it could be a good option, attacking the knight, right? But I'm protecting yours. But then what's going to happen, guys? He can still come here and capture it, right? So you push your pawn b5, the knight will capture the bishop. We capture with a pawn, but then he can capture back and he's still going to win a pawn. Bishop c5. Interesting. Okay, what's going to happen if we could go here, bishop b5? Right, it's going to be check, right? Checks are always good, but yes. And once we move this, a rook is vulnerable, but he's in check, so he cannot capture a rook, right? And because he cannot capture a rook, he's being forced to capture a pawn or bishop. Once he captures a bishop, we can capture his rook and do check. And then because the pawn, his pawn is going to be here, with our knight, we have the option to capture his pawn. So we're going to end up, you know, having more options here, right? And then we can attack. Okay, so that's called, I see, post-pawn discovery attack, clearing sacrifice. So sometimes we do have to make sacrifice to win a game. And that's also something we learn with practice, guys. You know, how to make sacrifice, how to do discovery attacks, how to get better at open, you know, doing checks, doing checkmate in 2 and 3, getting new ideas. So always doing puzzles, you know, always practicing, exercising. Puzzles part of are fun, you know, puzzle rush is okay, but doing the puzzles that takes time, that you analyze, you know, it's not as much fun as, you know, playing, but you will improve your game greatly if you do that. Okay, let's see. Let's do one more, guys, to finish today's class. Let me see. Good job, guys. Okay, so Black has moved the rook to c8, and it's our turn to move. We're white, right? What should we move here? Okay, guys. So here it doesn't seem we can attack, right? Doesn't seem we're too aggressive. It seems more like we're defending. Now he has an extra bishop, right? He has two bishops. We only have one. And then we have the same amount of pieces, but he has 3 pawns and we got 6. Which is good to have more pawns, right? Because we can always push pawns to try to get a queen. So what should we do here, guys? What ideas you'll have? I'm gonna give you some time for you guys to think about this one. And then we can answer it and when we can be finishing today's class. The rook on the right to see. Okay, that's good what he's saying, right, guys? If we're writing a game or we're trying to talk to someone about where should we move, we say rook c1, but which rook, right? So not to create confusion, you always say rook d or rook a, right? You don't say rook 1 because they're both on 1, right? So you say rook a to c1 or rook d to c1, right? Okay, knight e5. Knight e5, but remember, guys, when we move, we say why, right? So knight e5 is trying to bring your knight to the center, but then after this, you don't have many options, right? You are pretty much, you run out of options here. So remember, when you're moving your knight, you always have to think, once you move it, where can you move it next? If you're moving next to where you don't have many options, then don't move it there, move it somewhere else. Okay, now moving the rook here, you're inviting to trade. But guys, you don't want to trade when you're losing, you're behind by pieces. If we start trading pieces, he's still gonna have an extra bishop and we're not gonna have it. So if we start trading pieces when we're behind, most likely we will lose. We don't want to trade unless we're winning. When you're winning, go ahead and trade because you will win for sure. Knight e5, then queen g4. Okay, so he's saying let's do here and let's bring here to do a check. And then obviously this check is gonna, but if we go here, the bishop can capture this, right? Okay. If the bishop wasn't here, this would be a very good move. Queen g4, right? But not at this point. Therefore, we need to start wrapping up. Okay, bishop to h8. Bishop h8. Okay. Bishop h8, he will capture your bishop, right? So let's start wrapping up, guys. The best place is to move the queen. But where can we move our queen? Where is the best place? Okay, I'll give you some seconds to tell me. Where do you think we can move the queen? Queen e5? Yes. Why queen e5? Because then we can go for the checkmate here or here, right? And what about if he pushed the pawn? He pushed the pawn, we can capture the bishop and do check. And now we're even. Okay, good jobs, guys. I want to answer queen e5. See, he protected. We cannot capture, right? Because he's defending. Where we can capture the bishop, free piece, check. And now we're even, but we got more pawns. So now we're winning. Now we can now you can move the rook here. Either rook doesn't really matter. Now you can start trading because you're winning. We're ahead on pieces. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you for attending the class. If you have questions, just You can always find me, my profile, I think it's on the chat. We can have lessons, if you're a beginner, like you're just learning the basic of chess, I'll be happy to help you. If you're intermediate, also I can help you to improve your game. Here is my profile. I'll be waiting for you. You got also a discount. I think it's called Get 10, which you can get a 10% discount. Okay, so guys, keep practicing chess. More than booking lessons with me or no, chess is a fun sport. It helps you analyze. It helps you, get smarter. Be always analytic. It's gonna help you improve your daily lives. So, I hope to see you guys soon. But if not, keep practicing chess. Keep playing, keep improving yourself, and that way you're gonna be much better in many topics. Not only in chess, but it's gonna help you improve many things. Okay, guys. So thank you for coming today. I hope to see you next time. See you guys. Bye.